Everybody, it's your man Tony Wiggins here with another edition of Locked On Jaguars on a Tuesday. We're going to talk about stock up, stock down. Jamal Agnew, his stock is through the roof right now in terms of being a playmaker for the Jaguars. We'll talk about that as we head to a weekend game against the Seattle Seahawks, who looked like trash last night. We'll do it all here on a Tuesday on Locked On Jaguars.
Jags, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What is up? What is happening? It's Tuesday. It's game week. Urban Meyer has spoken about the Jaguars, about no more excuses. We're going to get into all of that here today on Locked On Jaguars, where we thank you for making us your first listen of the day. And we're free on all platforms, man. All you got to do is just click on, log in, subscribe, and listen. It don't cost you any money. We're free on every platform, and we thank you for making us your first listen. All right, so we're going to get into it. I'm going to talk stock up, stock down, and the impact that has on the team moving forward. We're going to review some of the things that we said leading up to this point, about how some of the best players on the team and names eventually when the team gets good, it doesn't mean they won't be here, but they just may not be in the role that you remembered them being in. And we'll give you some examples. We're also going to talk about Sunday's game against the Seattle Seahawks. It's not a crossover edition, but I'm going to tell you the reason why I said yesterday was so important, and last night watching the Seahawks play, it really, really showed me that I was right, and the Jaguars have to win this game if they're going to ever start to separate from those bad teams at the bottom of the NFL. And then at the end, we're just going to discuss this. We're going to discuss getting some key parts and players back next year and adding some players. There's enough right now that you see from certain guys that you can only imagine what it's going to look like moving forward. So a little bit of positivity in segment 3 that we're going to get to. But right now, let's talk about the Swiss Army knife, who is Jamal Agnew. I did not expect this, but he is a playmaker. He is a guy that over the last couple of games you realize is more than a kick returner. He is someone you absolutely have to get the ball in his hands. Now, I don't recall recall seeing someone like him in Jacksonville. And there have been very few guys like him over recent memory in the NFL where they were a weapon in the kicking game as well as a legitimate weapon from the line of scrimmage. He reminds me a little bit of Wes Welker when Welker was in Miami, because most people remember Wes Welker from New England, obviously, and Denver later. But they don't remember the Wes Welker that was in Miami when he was trying to make his way, and he was actually returning punts and kicks, and they were lining them up all over the place. That's the guy that New England traded for, okay? A lot of people probably don't remember Steve Smith as just a kick returner who at the beginning of his career was a kick returner and then turned out to be a great, great wide receiver. Eric Metcalf comes to mind as a dude that could line up all over the field, and he was dangerous in the kicking game. Devin Hester to a certain extent, but not as much as these guys. He was probably the best. He's the GOAT in terms of returning kicks, but he probably was never as good from scrimmage as some of the guys that I mentioned. Cordell Patterson has turned out to be that sort of guy who's dangerous in the kick game as well as lining them up all over the place. And what you see from Jamal Agnew is very similar to what you see right now from Cordell Patterson. They can put him anywhere on offense, and he's just a guy that you have to get the ball to. It's a shock and a surprise. And the role that he has offensively is kind of the role that you envision Travis Etienne having on this team, and you envision what Urban Meyer and the crew saw in having a guy like that on this roster. Now, there'll still be people debating whether or not you use a first-round pick on that. There'll still be people saying, well, no, you don't do that. The value isn't high. And look what they got Agnew for. They got him for next to nothing. So you can find a guy. There it is again. You can find a guy. Well, I'm not going there because that's not the point. The point is we're just going to focus on what they have now. And in segment 3, we're going to look at what they have when they get him and ETN on the roster at the same time, along with James Robinson. But for right now, Jamal Agnew is just a dude that has to get the ball. He's someone you have to put the ball in his hand. His stock is up. So what does that mean for other people? That means that next year when they add ETN back and probably go and draft a wide receiver or add one in free agency, that means guys whose names you know, their role will diminish a little bit. I feel bad for DJ Chark because I don't know what the future holds for him because he's going to be coming off of an injury. Does he sign a 1-year prove-it deal to stay here in Jacksonville where he's familiar, or does he go somewhere else? That's a big question. The other thing is Laviska Shenault. There was talk last year when Laviska was drafted that eventually I heard people compare him to Andre Johnson and Anquan Bolden. Laviska had made a big play in the game, I believe, against the Titans. So the following week, there was this expectation that he was going to make all these plays against the Dolphins. And while he made a big play at the end, it seemed like he missed some plays early in the game. So when you get your opportunity, you sort of have to take advantage of it. Now, by no means am I saying that the Jaguars need to be giving up on people. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is when your job requires you to win or get run off, you're not as patient, okay? When you want to win so bad, you're not as patient. And when the opportunity arises for you in the offseason to add players, you're going to do it, especially if they're available to you. So I do think that the expectation, at least from a fan and media perspective, I can't tell you what the coaches think, but I can tell you that the expectation is they're going to rely on other people to be the 1 and 1 alphas on this team, other than the guys that we expected coming into this season. We all thought it was Laviska. We all thought it was DJ Chark. I don't think it's going to be those guys moving forward. Marvin Jones has cemented himself as the veteran pass catcher and the leader of that room and that group. Therefore, he's always going to be one of the top 3 guys that are out there because he's the most reliable guy for Trevor Lawrence. But hopefully what you see is an opportunity, and I'm always going to look at the blue sky and tell you about the opportunity that's in front of you. Hopefully you see that there's an opportunity that you have guys that you can add to and build on, and hope that one of them ends up being a budding superstar, or that you're able to go out and get that budding superstar. And now you have these other guys. That's what all the really good teams do. Think about all the good teams. Right now, I think the team that you think about is the Rams. When you think about weapons on the outside, Cooper Kupp is a superstar. Robert Woods is a very, very good player. They have a very good young player. Okay. In Van Jefferson. They drafted another fast guy, and then they got an OG fast dude who can take the top off in Deshaun Jackson. That's what I'm talking about. You can never have too many weapons. You're going to need every single one of them if you're going to contend and win for a championship. And it looks like the Jaguars at least have something that they can put their eyes on. Now, they still need to go do that superstar. They still need to get that one guy and find him in development no matter where they find him at. But in the interim, in the here and now, they got a quarterback. So now that you have a quarterback, having a quarterback allows you to actually see the true weapons that you have and the ones that you don't have, because you can't say, well, maybe it's the quarterback. Maybe it's no, it's not the quarterback. Now you can get a true feel for what you may need moving forward. And I think the stock for Jamal Agnew went up, and I think it's a good thing for this football team. All right, we're going to get into it a little bit more. We're going to talk about the opponent coming up this Sunday, some things that I saw where the Jaguars could really, really take advantage. And we'll do it in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars on a Tuesday. Jaguar fans, man, listen, this is me, Tony Wiggins, and I'm telling you about an incredible app everyone who buys gas needs to know about. It's called Get Upside. That's all one word, Get Upside. There are some listeners I know that are making up to 25 cents for every gallon of gas every time they fill up. Now, if you just download the free Get Upside app in your app store or on Google Play right now, use the promo code TOUCHDOWN and get a bonus 25 cents per gallon on your first fill up. That's up to 50 cents cash back on your first fill up, and then 25 cents on every fill up per gallon after that. That is unbelievable. So don't pay full price at the pump anymore. Get cash back using Get Upside. Now, the money's going to be in your account until you want it out of there. When you want it out and you want to cash it out, it can either go to your bank, PayPal, a gift card from eGift, or Amazon and other brands. So just download the free Get Upside app and use the promo code Touchdown, and you're going to start saving money, because I know all of you guys want to learn how to save more money on gas. So it's Get Upside and the Touchdown. Touchdown is your password, and Get Upside is the app. So use the promo code Touchdown to start saving money right now on gas. All right, man, we're going to keep rolling here on a good Tuesday. Shout out to all you guys. A beautiful, beautiful day outside. I wish I would have got with you guys earlier, but they were doing some maintenance around here, as they do sometimes on Tuesday, and there was just too much noise to be recording. But I'm here now. I am absolutely here now for you, and trying to bring it all to you. I'll tell you what, something else that's coming up. Something that's coming up is the trade deadline. All right, and we're glad that you make us your first listen every day. Now, we've got you covered on all things Jaguars, but the trade deadline right now is around the corner. So don't miss our live NFL trade deadline show, reaction to every move, plus a second half season preview and much more. Catch the live show from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time, November 2nd, on the Locked On NFL YouTube page. I watched Seattle last night after yesterday declaring that this was the biggest game of the Urban Meyer regime. And a lot of people was like, maybe, maybe not. They're all big. I got a lot of the coach speak where all the games are big, man. Ain't no game bigger than the other. Okay, yeah, you're right. But I do stand by that statement that this is the biggest game of the year for Urban Meyer and the Jaguars, and that is because of this. They get a do-over. They won a game. Enthusiasm is at an all-time high. No one's talking about off-the-field stuff anymore. The thing is back, focused on football. Trevor Lawrence looks like he's just developing to be the superstar of a quarterback for the Jaguars, and all is good in the neighborhood. So why do I think it's going to be a big game? Because I think it's absolutely winnable, and I think the Jaguars should have a legitimate shot to go in and absolutely beat Seattle on their home field. Now, I know you're going like, wait, what are you talking about, man? Because the bottom line is Seattle has the 12th man, and they're this and they're that. The only thing I will tell you is this. Seattle's not only lost one close game, Seattle's actually lost two close games at the end of the game. They lost overtime to Pittsburgh 2 weeks ago, and then yesterday they lost on a game where they had sort of a walk-off field goal. So against the Saints, and they've both been emotional games. They've both been wet weather games. So you don't really want your team that you're going to face to be coming off of two losing efforts where they almost won. But there are some things in this game and that I noticed where Seattle has a clear advantage in terms of their wide receivers. You would think that the Jaguars, because they've struggled covering people, would struggle with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. The difference is the Hall of Famer, or the future Hall of Famer, Russell Wilson, isn't the one throwing them the ball. It's Geno Smith. The difference also is their offensive line seems to be in shambles. The other thing is they're missing the lead running back in Chris Carson. And Geno Smith at times has looked like a deer in headlights. If there's ever a time that the Jaguars defensive front, which has done a lot better lately in terms of creating pressure, can dominate a football game, this is the one. Because in order to get to the point where Seattle's advantage can actually dominate the game, which is those receivers, Geno's got to be able to drop back and not be running for his life. And that hasn't been the case the last 2 weeks. Therefore, I think the Jaguars, they sort of eliminate the disadvantage that they have with the DBs guarding those receivers. And now all of a sudden, that kind of mellows out a little bit to the point where it's a wash, and it's all going to be about the front seven. The other thing is when Seattle is on defense, the other teams have been able to manipulate some things by throwing the ball to the running backs and getting the running backs open in space. Therefore, I'm looking for James Robinson and the aforementioned Jamal Agnew to be extremely dominant. I think Trevor's going to have to be patient. I think he's going to pick his spots. There was also some holes in their defense down the field once the teams that I saw the last couple of weeks were able to sort of establish the short passing game, and you can find some holes in the secondary. And I think Trevor Lawrence will be good enough to manipulate those things. I'm fully to the point now where I expect the Jaguars to go up and get their second win. Here's why it's so important, and then I want to tack this on to what I said yesterday if you didn't hear it. The Jaguars win 2 games in a row after also playing the Bengals to a very, very close game. And people start looking back saying that they played the Bengals, the Titans, and the Arizona Cardinals very, very tough in the first half, and now they've gotten better. You'll now start to see a progression, and this progression that eventually leads to winning on the football field. Now, everybody can have like Detroit, they're 0-6 or whatever, or maybe 0-7, but everybody's sitting there talking about, but they're playing hard. They're playing hard. That's good, but at some point you want to win, right? Well, the Jaguars are beyond the playing hard stage. Now they want to actually win and put 2 games together back to back. And based on what I saw in the last 2 weeks, there's no reason to think that they won't be able to outduel Seattle based on where they're strong and where Seattle's struggling, and the fact that Geno Smith is just not a very, very good quarterback at this level. So we'll see. That's the micro version of looking at the progress that the Jaguars will make. What about the big picture? Getting guys back, adding other guys to this team. Now we're going to do segment 3 under the presumption that they're going to win 2 games in a row. All right. So we're going to already assume that the Jaguars are going to win this game. And we're just having a hypothetical to say that if they go up and get this one, and then they got Buffalo coming in here, that's going to be a whole different story. But if they go up and get this game in Seattle, their mindset has to be correct. And I'll tell you why their mindset is correct moving forward. And then I'll show you how we can start to see then a path and a progress to how the Jaguars can actually get this thing consistently on the right page. We'll do that coming up here in segment 3 on a Tuesday on Locked On Jaguars. After I tell you guys about betonline.ag. Look, man, I missed the parlay the other day because of the Carolina Panthers losing to the Giants. But that's okay because I was right on it. Learn my lesson. I'll stop putting 5 teams in. I'll just put 4 teams in, and I'll do a little bit better. And you can do the same thing and get a chance to line your pockets up by going to the #1 spot for all of your football and basketball action this season, and that's BetOnline. Head to our new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use your promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus. From basketball to football to baseball, postseason. World Series is coming up. Boxing, UFC, you got it. And even some of your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all of your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. That's right, man. It's where the game starts, man. It's at BetOnline. All right. And I'm going to also tell you about rockauto.com. If you want to get some car parts and accessories that actually work for your vehicle, and you want them to be the right type of parts, and you want them to last forever, and you want them to be even sometimes 100% for more of the same parts that you get from a chain store, well, rockauto.com is the place for you to go because it's a family-owned business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 2 decades. That's over 20 years of fabulous service from Rock Auto. Rock Auto prices are reliably low for every single customer, and they have everything you could need: brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, and even new carpet. All you got to do is go to rockauto.com, and you're going to see a box where they want to know how you heard about them, and then you just put Locked On in that box so that they know we sent you. RockAuto.com has an amazing selection, reliably low prices. All the parts your car will ever need are at RockAuto.com. You don't have to go stand in the store. You get on your computer and go to RockAuto.com and just wait for the knock at the door, and those parts will come. And more importantly, they're going to be the right parts, and you're going to save money. So it's rockauto.com. Make sure you put Locked On in the box when they ask, how did you hear about us? All right, man, rolling through here on a Tuesday on Locked On Jaguars. Urban Meyer spoke out. He talked about a few things. We mentioned that he talked about Jamal Agnew in his weekly presser, meeting the media, and said he was his biggest separator, and they got to find a way to get him the ball. But he also said something that I just happened to mention yesterday in my podcast, and Urban said it himself. There are no more excuses. Just new quarterback stuff. New coach. Getting used to the NFL. New staff. None of that. And I think now they obviously know who they're going to lead with. Trevor Lawrence, Jamal Agnew, James Robinson, of course. Should have mentioned him second, by the way. Sprinkle in some Dan Arnold, sprinkle in some Laviska Shenault, and also turn when things are going, when you really need 6 yards, find number 11, Marvin Jones Jr. That's offensively. Defensively, we know Devon Hamilton is going to be stout against the run. We know Doug Costin is going to play well, and Adam Gossett is going to play well, and we know Jamal Brown is going to play well. Those guys along the defensive front are going to do what they got to do. But they need Josh Allen to continue playing the way Josh Allen has played over the last few weeks. Josh Allen the last few weeks has looked like the Josh Allen we all thought he could be. Made the play on short yardage situation in London against Miami. He really came down and beat down and ran down the line and stopped the running back in the backfield before he could get that half a yard that he needed. Has been constantly supplying pressure, even though the numbers and sacks hasn't really showed up. They also need Shaquille Griffin to keep being Shaquille Griffin. He's played extremely well on the back end. They've been getting spirited play out of Rashawn Jenkins at safety. The linebackers have done what the linebackers have had to do. So now you just got to get other guys to develop. He says Tyson Campbell will be back this week. So they got Trey Herndon back a few weeks ago, and they're working him in. So the things that they have to do this week, they should probably be able to do them against Seattle, because Seattle is struggling in their own right. But what about the future? What about the future, especially on offense? Are we seeing enough now to realize that they have a good foundation of people that they can depend on to turn the corner and be a good team? I think we are seeing that. But I think they need to put the pedal to the metal. See, the average fan sometimes hits me up and they'll name everybody down and say, these guys are good enough. We know who they are. We can win with them. They just got to get better. I don't think that. I think that you need the guys that you have now. Plus, you need to add some superstar power to them. You need to bring more guys into the room. I don't think their best wide receiver that they're going to have over the next year or two is on the roster right now. I don't think the best offensive lineman that they're going to have over the next year or two, when we really expect them to start pushing and making a run, is on the roster right now. Their second best wide receiver might not be on the roster right now. But when you can get to the point that the guys you have now are 3, 4, and 5, then you're cooking with grease, hot grease, good grease. That's going to get the food done. I don't think that their best pass rusher that they're going to have on the roster a year or two from now, when they start really, really turning the corner, is on the roster right now. But can you imagine how good this team could be if Josh Allen, the way he's been playing, is your second best? He'll be fine if he's your first best. You'll just have to need to go get another guy just like him. But what if they could find a guy that, I hate I said that. Did I just say they could find a guy? What if they go out and actually pursue and get someone that's Josh or better? How much better do you think that makes him? How much better do you think that makes this team? What if they get another corner who's as good or better, possibly better than Shaquille Griffin? Oh, I think that would be the greatest thing ever for this franchise. So I think those are the areas that they need to add to. They need to make sure that Andre Cisco continues to develop, and if that's not the case, then they need to go get another big-time safety like Jesse Bates from the Cincinnati Bengals, who's going to be a free agent. If you need to admit that you were wrong, admit that you were wrong, but don't stay wrong just because, you got to want to be right more than you want to be not wrong. You know what I'm saying? So here's some things for the future. This is going to be a big game Sunday. It's going to be a huge game Sunday because now folks are assigned certain things. This isn't a trial anymore. We know who we're leading with. We know who we are. We know exactly what our strategy is going to be. Now it's just time, the way it was for LaVisca in London, to prove it. You're not going to sneak up on anybody anymore. Everybody knows James Robinson and Jamal Agnew, those, and right now Marvin Jones. That's where Trevor's going with the ball because that's what we're leading with. Can you do it? Can you impose your will on people when they absolutely know what to expect? This is the next step. So it's almost like it's an audition from here on out. Are you just going to be a member of the team, or are you going to be that superstar, or do we need to go find that superstar? So learning how to win games and be competitive is one thing. Well, learn how to be competitive is one thing. Being competitive and then learn how to win is another. Being competitive and learning how to win and showing us that we can win with you is an entirely different thing. And you can win every day right here on the Locked On Jaguars by making us your first listen, but also your second listen needs to be the Peacock and Williamson podcast that you can find on the Locked On Podcast Network and wherever you get your podcasts. Brian Peacock is an NFL analyst along with my man Matt Williamson, who's a former NFL scout, and they give it to you like no one else can. So make sure you find and subscribe and like the Peacock and Williamson podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your man Tony Wiggins, man, y'all have a nice Tuesday. It's a beautiful day here in Northeast Florida. Y'all continue to take care of each other, and I will do the same. Until tomorrow, take care.